Hi guys, I'm Daria and I'm an exchange student in America. This is the new interview on this channel, and today I'm going to talk to my professor. He is teaching Theories of the State and American Government class. So it will be interesting to hear his opinion of the same topic about media and how it shapes political perception nowadays. So let's get started. I'm really glad that you agreed this interview. So thank you for this opportunity. And I wanted to start from comparative question. So did you notice that nowadays students shape their political perception because of media development? And do they seem too obvious for you or not?
No. Usually, what I discuss with students is content that I put in front of them. Um, but, I mean, just given our conversations in the classroom, quite a few students are on social media, and yes, I do think they are forming echo chambers. But,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, so I want to say that at first it was a big shock. We discussed current news because I never did it before studying political science in Russia. So, do you encounter some problems when you want to discuss some current event and you feel confused to evaluate this because students can have different views?
Uh, no, for a couple of reasons. One, I'm a cynic at this point, which means I throw dirt left, right, center, everywhere. I think there's problems across the board, so I think that helps me get along with my students, whatever their political preferences are. And I take that back. The one concern I have with contemporary politics, it seems that our news cycle in America is so fast, so rapid now, and so competitive that I like to step back and at least give a month for the dust to settle and the kind of true story to emerge. But the problem is our news has already moved well past that, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of partisan and clickbait headlines and a lot of noise. So I like to consider myself a contemporary historian, right? I need at least a month to be able to sort out what's really going on, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Because last semester I have the class of intro to international relationships,
Yeah.
and there was events of Afghanistan, and our professor was talking about it, and I was like, oh my god, how we can talk about it? Like, I don't even know because I studied
Yeah.
political science, but I didn't know how to analyze current events because I always analyze only like history. So you think it is like mandatory for future political scientists?
Well, just in terms of teaching pedagogy, I think making what we're doing in the classroom consequential is how you get students engaged. So by tying it into real world events, I think that helps. I think it's a great way to do it.
Do you feel generation gap in political views, teaching students who sometimes get information only from one source when you try to analyze and do research based on different sources?
Mm, no, because I think I have enough diversity in the classroom in terms of political views that it evens out. There may be some students who are kind of over here and only reading this, but other students are over here, and if they're both participating in the discussion, I think we're getting a good mix. Yeah.
Okay, I also wanted to ask about international students, if you had some before. Did you notice that is it noticeable during class, like, or even when we write papers, that they had different political culture, and because of this, they had like the style of thinking was different?
Usually they're very good students, and if they're not participating willingly, I try to prompt them if they can offer us perspective from different perspective, different country, different background. But I haven't noticed anything that was like a major clash with democratic values, or is that what your question's getting at? I haven't noticed that so much. Maybe not here, but I can remember teaching at another university a young woman who was from a Middle Eastern country and felt very strongly about kind of gender roles, or not so much gender roles, but clothing and the cultural tradition of Muslims, and was actually quite supportive of that, viewing that as a kind of protection against what in the West we would call kind of a hedonistic, materialistic culture. and that was new, encountering that perspective. So,
Yeah,
but I
I
haven't
guess.
seen much of that here. What were you gonna say? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it is different if like Asian countries and they have like completely different political culture
Mm.
and they grown up in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you name some mistakes in American political agenda? Why do society split up nowadays? If you feel this way.
Mistakes. So things going wrong in American politics.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, for me, the lack of accountability.
Mm-hmm.
I've looked just following politics the last 20 years. I've seen some big mistakes made. I mean, whether it's the Iraq War or the economic recession of 2008, and the champions of the economic policies that got us there with the recession, the so-called experts on the news who failed to see it coming. None of these types were ever held accountable. They're still out there influencing. They're still on the news shows. Same thing with the Iraq War. They're still influencing foreign policy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a real problem in America, the lack of accountability. And I don't know what the solution is. It just seems like we keep going back to the well in terms of these are our talented people, got to hire them, but look at their record.
Mm-hmm.
That's I think a huge problem.
Okay. Also, I want to ask some questions about media. So, what is your favorite media source, and where do you usually get news?
I don't know if I have a favorite one. I'm again a bit of a cynic, but I like. You're going to start your morning off and you want to read the headlines. RealClearPolitics.com. It does a good job of here's the big headline stories of the day, and here's kind of what a right winger would say. Here's what a left winger would say, and kind of marches down
Mm-hmm.
the headlines that way and gives you different perspectives. So I think that's necessary. You've got to read different sources and try to synthesize between them to get
Yeah.
some semblance of the truth. Yeah.
Where is more reliable information nowadays? Is it television or the internet? Or you consider TV as a traditional and very old media full of propaganda?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I think you'll recall we listened to that Matt Taibbi interview and his discussion of the business model. The internet figured this out first. How can we keep people coming back? Well, with giving them stuff that gets them angry and giving them whatever they want as opposed to challenging them. And I think the news, mainstream news, in order to compete, has followed that model. And wherever you go now, it's very difficult to find, I think, a source that is neutral and just kind of doing fact-based journalism. I think that too is a dying trend, dying trade, dying craft, because there's less money now because all the advertising dollars is online. So the
Yeah.
old media, to compete, they to have, they're laying people off. They're not sending people out just to do classic investigative journalism. It's let's get some talking heads on TV and just rah, 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 rah.
Mhm.
That's the model now. Yeah.
Yeah, because I just noticed that I asked some students here, and all of them, just only one guy said that he's watching TV like every day, but most of students they just, I mean, they don't even know like cable TV exists and they don't
Yeah.
even open it.
I think it's, and you can tell too. Look at the advertising. So your top shows, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night on
Mhm.
the news channels. What are the advertisers? A lot of products that are popular among seniors,
Yeah.
right? A bit walking canes or medications or
Yeah.
Viking cruise lines. It's just, yeah. I mean, that's the audience for television now. It's boomers.
Do you remember your young ages? Did media, especially TV, because you probably didn't have internet, did it shape your political perception?
Trying to think, when did I really start consuming? Probably in college,
Mhm.
but I would go to Barnes and Noble and they had academic journals there, and then kind of one step below that, these kind of foreign policy journals, like Foreign Affairs is one of them, or National Interest. You ever read those?
Mhm.
Yeah, the Public Interest. So I think I was a bit odd in that regard, but yeah, I'm sure I was consuming media, television news as well. I think so, but because I chose my major, I did international affairs, which
Mhm.
combined political philosophy, political science,
Yeah.
history, sociology, and then I went to grad school. Those experiences
Mhm.
were more important than what I was consuming in the news. Yeah,
So that was like secondary role of media for you.
yeah, and it I think allowed me to filter out a lot of the noise and
Mhm.
try to grab something that was more substantive, and if I did watch news. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you remember some events in the US history when media presented in the wrong way and you knew it 100% that it's the wrong
At the
way?
time,
Yeah.
that's just the thing, right? You never know for sure. I can remember with hindsight, right? So things leading up to the Iraq War, again, the economic recession. I remember being suspicious of the media's coverage of some of these Syrian gas attacks, and I don't know that that's been true. But some of them I think were clear cut, but there's been some subsequent ones. Gosh, this is just blurry for me now. But it seems like some new developments have shown that maybe it wasn't the Assad regime. But again, I don't know for sure with that, and that's the challenge, right? It's still murky.
Mm.
Generally, I don't trust anything on the economy.
Yeah.
Yeah, particularly if it's any of the even the news that's dedicated to business, right?
Mhm.
That's what it does. I'm very skeptical of that. I think that's all propaganda. It's serving the interest of
Mhm.
the financial sector. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have same views as your family, and do you share media sources with each other?
My dad will forward me stuff every now and then, but we're not on social media in terms of a real quick, here's a link. You know, we're not on Twitter together. We're not on Facebook together.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of same views, I don't know. To some extent.
Yeah, like, did your family had influence on you when you were growing up, so you wanted to have like
I
kind
think
of same perspective?
less so, here's our views, this is what yours should be, but more the experience I acquired in my household. So my dad was in the military.
Mm-hmm.
You're a kid, your father goes off to war, that kind of opens your eyes to there is this larger world.
Mm-hmm.
We moved around a lot because of that. I lived all over the country, so I was exposed to a lot of different cultural and political viewpoints because of that. So I think that was more influential than
Mm-hmm.
sitting across the table with my parents
Yeah.
and having political conversations. Yeah.
What do you think about YouTube today? Is it still an independent and free media, or it is already under someone else's control?
I think it's under its own control in terms of having rules and regulations and a kind of their own censorship policies.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're looking for external pressures, you know, I think interest groups probably are very important. The ADL, the SPLC seem to, I think, here are individuals or groups, they'll come, I think, to YouTube and say, you know, these are dangerous, extreme, you should ban them. I think that's probably an influential aspect. In terms of government, you know, I wouldn't use the word control, and that's true for all of these. I think there is just a question of influence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at COVID, I think government probably entered that space then in terms of trying to prevent misinformation or disinformation,
Yeah.
things like that. So, yeah.
What about social media like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter? Do you find it trustworthy sources where people can see the truth?
I'm the wrong guy to ask just because I'm not on those sites. I don't know what they look like anymore. I was on Twitter some time ago, and again, I think it just comes back to who you're choosing to follow. But I don't think that's a sufficient answer anymore because as I understand it now, Twitter now will recommend people, and you see that in your feed now too. And that's new. That wasn't there when I was there. So
yeah. So you think Elon Musk has like better intentions just to get rid of bots in Twitter and like make it more?
I haven't heard that argument. Is that what he's saying? That it's in part about getting rid of fake accounts and bots?
Yeah, like to get rid of bots and give a like more field for free speech.
Yeah, I think he wants to do that, and I think generally I'm supportive of that. We'll have to see. I've had some people really whisper in my ear that Elon Musk is not to be trusted, but I've never investigated his biography. I know he's done some pretty impressive things with rockets, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Do you usually believe in information from American news channels about other countries?
In questions of foreign policy and war, no.
Mm-hmm.
No, I wouldn't say it's a knee-jerk reaction that I automatically discount it, but my radar is on high alert. Yeah, I don't have a lot of trust, a lot of faith. So, I mean, I've traveled, but I don't know if that would give me much insight on whether or not the media is giving us a fair representation of foreign countries.
So do you try to read like European news, like United Kingdom, Germany?
Yeah, I think the Guardian can be helpful in that regard. Um, just today, we were commenting in our morning class. Even your students were big fans of Al Jazeera News. That it's, in their opinion, it has less skin in the game for some of these things we follow. So yeah, I think that's an important thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for me, even more so, going back to the Iraq War, I remember seeing studies after the fact showing that if you really wanted to get unbiased news about the Iraq War and the build up to the Iraq War, you had to go abroad. You had to read something coming out of England or Germany or France or something like this. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you think, why are most of Americans so isolated from the world news and follow news of domestic politics?
Well, I think that's in part a part of our culture. Americans, I don't know what the right word for that would be, are kind of focused on ourselves, see ourselves as the center of the world. I don't know if we're unique in that regard. I've read that the Chinese are similar, right? Middle kingdom of the world, that kind of stuff. So that's part of it. I kind of like that Americans focus on American politics. I think there's a lot of problems in America, so I think it does deserve a lot of attention. And I think it varies, right? Right now, Americans certainly seem interested in Ukraine when there's these hot spots, kind of hot item events.
Yeah,
so.
I opened CNN 2 days ago to watch Navalny movie. That was a premiere.
To watch what movie?
Navalny.
Okay.
Did you hear about it?
No.
So it's the oppositioner who's in prison right now in Russia. And when I opened it like 10 minutes before the movie, that was news only about Russia and Ukraine.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, it's so like intense. It's everywhere, like all channels. I was surprised. I think it was not like this like maybe 2 years ago, like in news. It was different.
No, I mean, it kind of goes back and forth. The economy is usually dominating. If not, there's some big foreign policy event. And then you'll have other brief moments of things like Supreme Court nominations or some celebrity said something or did something to somebody.
Yeah. So what about celebrities? Do you usually separate, if it's like musician or artist, do you separate their works and what they say, or it is meaningful for you?
So if a celebrity, if I remember the question, if a celebrity says something and I don't like it politically, will I still listen to their music or watch their movies? Yeah, I'm not bothered by that. I don't treat seriously what most celebrities say about politics.
Yeah, so you separate it because right now, like in Russia, if a lot of celebrities they keep silence, it likes cancel culture right now. Like we will stop listening to your songs.
Oh really?
Like this. So I was really curious how it is here. Like do people separate it?
Yeah, I think some probably do. And I do think Americans, we give celebrities a platform that they don't deserve in terms of influencing our politics. Which is really bizarre. I don't know if I mentioned to your class before, but it used to be that we viewed, when I say we, I mean just, I guess, European history, we was viewed, actors were viewed suspiciously. Because if you were capable of being an effective actor, you were a liar, you were a deceiver, you had a talent for tricking people, which just aroused suspicion, and we don't have that at all anymore with celebrities.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much.
Is that it?
Was all, yeah. Thank you so much.
Of
It
course.
was super interesting.
I hope it was helpful.